What's up YouTube, Luke here, bringing you a second walk around video of the Talon, simply because we actually got one. We've done quite a bit of testing on this vehicle so far, but we haven't had one on our own home turf, and we finally do. So we've had some time in this thing where we ride, and I wanted to bring you guys some more comments, but I'm also here with...
What's up everybody?
AJ.
Yep.
So I thought maybe we'd give our combined opinions on this one. Age, I mean, you haven't really had a chance to put too many miles on it, but I mean, what do you think of it overall? You know all the specs, you can see it, obviously we're looking at it. What do you think of it?
Yeah, you know what, I think, so number one vehicle in the past 10 years that has got me excited from Honda was the 4-seat Pioneer. That vehicle was like their first real entrance into the modern side-by-side world. I mean, truthfully, it
What,
was.
the big red wasn't?
Yeah, no, not exactly. No, that was a bit of a big flop. But then this vehicle comes out, and it's like, okay, I think Honda's actually engaged. This is the X model. The R model is what, like 6 inches wider?
Yeah, it's 72 wide and longer, and it has more travel as well.
So this is 15.1 in the back, 14.6 up front.
Yeah.
And the other one goes to like 20.1 in the back and 17 point something up front.
Yeah. So this is your trail model. This is like your East Coast.
Yeah, it's your Maverick. Actually, it's your Maverick Sport.
Yep.
It's your Polaris RZR 1000.
Yep.
Yeah. So honestly, I'm very impressed with the fit and finish. Although Honda never really drops the ball on that stuff. They're always really tidy and clean and look good. But I'm impressed with things like the seating package. There's other companies who make vehicles that don't have as nice as seats. They aren't as comfortable. Interior things, like little stuff that Honda did. I mean, the nets, sure, none of us around here like nets.
The nets are overkill like crazy, especially when you're in it. They catch the peak of my helmet every time I look behind me.
Too much, but at the end of the day, the one thing that I do like is they put a half door on, and the net is attached to the door. So instead of some of those other manufacturers who have a net flopping around like a half-baked salmon, you're
i.e. Polaris,
catching on crud and sticks are coming in. This thing, like, even if you do forget it, it's not really all that bad. I mean, obviously, Honda doesn't want you to forget it. You're supposed to use it. Another cool thing, and I just noticed this now, it's a little overkill, but Honda always does things a little, a step further, is the adjustment for the handlebar pole. How many other manufacturers have a handlebar pole that rattles like crazy? This thing, like...
I don't really know how they're doing that, but the way that they're doing it, oh, here it is. You can see the cutout right there.
I think it's actually,
So it's actually pinching the metal of the mount.
They relieve the metal, so it's just like a tang in there that's being squished. But
when you hold it, though, it gives you more confidence.
It does. It doesn't rattle. The rattle and shake of the Polaris one, it's kind of like, oh, why does it do this?
Especially as a passenger, you're like, is this thing going to fall apart?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of weird. But you can adjust it super fast. If you have people coming in and out, if you're giving people a ride, it's really easy. The other thing that's cool is the interior, and I don't know what your thought is, but I think this is one of the nicest interiors that I've seen in a side-by-side.
In terms of like actual fit and finish, I mean, look at the painted center console,
like the buttons and stuff. Like, these look automotive. I mean,
they look trick. They look like something of an army Jeep or something like that. I will say this though, after riding it, the center mounted gauge sucks.
Yeah, and center mounted gauges, I'm not a big fan of that. You don't want to look over to the middle of the vehicle to see how fast you're going. Or to
one thing that it does do though is there's nothing in front of you up here. So your view of the trail is more unobstructed, but I'd rather have a gauge where I can see it.
This is kind of like, a lot of this here reminds me of what, like a Honda. What's that? That funny little sport utility thing they have. It's not called a Fit. It's or is it? It's just this plastic and the way that it's laid out. It's very like modern, small little Nissan Cube. Who makes the Juke? Nissan. That kind of like that really different looking cool interior, but all this paint and stuff, it's nice. The fit and finish is good. These buttons are probably out of the Honda Pilot. Like, they're probably automotive buttons.
Yeah, that's
everything
true.
looks super clean and tidy. But yeah, fit and finish inside, everything's finished off. There's no like loose ends or anything weird.
The seats are really, really comfortable.
Built for a 5-point too, right?
Yeah,
4-point.
4-point harnesses. The seating position is nowhere near as sporty as like a RZR or a Maverick. However, I found it to be extremely comfortable. But here's one thing that really impressed me, and you just opened the door, so you tell me. What do you think of the inside finishing on that door?
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Like, it's not just a bare door. It's not just metal bracketry. They've actually built an entire plastic cover for the inside of the door. It's like, I mean, it's like kind of like a car.
Well, and even over here, they've got like a bump stop almost, and on the inside, they have like an automotive rubber bump stop, which a lot of manufacturers don't. And so the door does this the whole time you're riding, which drives me absolutely nuts. This one, well, I guess it still does.
Not as bad, though.
No, not as bad. But like, yeah, I would say you're halfway in between
Like a General and a Razor almost.
Yeah, you're kind of in between those two. You're not quite as laid back as you would be in, like, let's say a Wildcat, and yet you're not as upright as you would be in a Commander or a General, but you're not as kind of sporty feeling, I guess. But I don't know. I like the way that it comes. The other thing that I like, it comes with a roof.
Yeah.
No other manufacturer, unless you're buying like a Maverick XRC Turbo R that's, you know, $43,000 Canadian. That vehicle comes with an aluminum roof, but no other vehicles seem to come with a roof from the factory, and that's something that I know they want to sell you at the dealership, but I just think they should come with.
Well, now that you mention it, if you look at it, this one's actually pretty tricky. It has a drip rail on the front too, so you don't get all the condensation in the morning running on your
The other thing
pants.
I really like about getting in and out is that this door opens up in a really reasonable way, and it opens up full, like, you know, full width. It's not. Some of the other doors open up forwards, and I always end up walking up to the thing, going like this, and then realizing, oh crud, I got to walk around the thing and pull it back this way. This opens up suicide, which makes a lot of sense. It's not automotive, but in a side-by-side, you're always coming at the vehicle from the front, it would seem, so I kind of like that. Now, suspension-wise, I don't know. I'd have to look up, and we'd have to take a peek at other manufacturers' shocks, but these are 2.0 bodies, front and rear.
They're
on
QS3s.
Fox, yeah, QS3 Fox Performance Series. So they're the cheaper Fox shock. They're not the factory series, but everybody uses the Performance Series. Really, no manufacturer uses the better factory series shock.
I just got done ripping through a field of nothing but brutal whoops.
Yeah.
You know that field we run out past the
it's
sand
still a
pit?
little warm.
I was really impressed. They're full soft right now, and it was pretty smooth.
Yeah, and
surprisingly.
It's dual rate spring as well, and there's no rebound adjustment. It's strictly just QS3, so it's just your compression. But I mean, they're a good shock, and it is a dual rate spring, so they're building something that's nice. Now, one of the things on this vehicle that's completely surprising and shocking
Is that a pun?
is the size of the motor and drivetrain.
Isn't it? It's so big.
Huge. It's got to be the biggest in the industry by, like,
It's just a
not
giant
little bit.
chunk of metal.
Oh, it's huge. It goes, like, I mean, you know, way the heck up there, all the way to the very end of the vehicle. Now, I know that that's, you know, that's differential all the way to, what, I guess is that part of the DCT up front? What is that up front?
It's
or is that the transfer?
No, it's all connected together.
That's not a transfer case.
I
up
think
there,
that is the
it?
transfer case, yeah.
I mean,
but it's part of the transmission. It's all one piece.
Yeah. It's just, there's so much stuff under there, so much motor, and I'm sure it's because it's Honda, so it's probably going to last a bajillion years.
You know what I think is interesting, though, is, yeah, it's a big motor, and yeah, there's a lot of junk up there and inside, but look at how open it is compared to a Razor, compared to a Maverick. You can see right through the other side. You can see all sides of the motor.
Yeah.
You could even change the plugs from here if you had to.
Yeah.
You know, whereas when you've got a lot of those other side-by-sides, you can't even get your hand in around the motor. So
It reminds me of the YXZ.
yeah, the motor's just hanging out the back.
Vehicles that if they had CVTs, you could change the belt on super easy.
But if they had CVTs, maybe it'd be too tight under there to change a belt.
Yeah.
Something to be said. Something
Yeah.
to be said for
I mean, it's
manual
nice
style
because
transmission.
That front tranny or whatever that thing, up front, if you can see where you can change the oil and check the oil. It's got a drain and a fill. You know, it's all nice and easy, nice and close. I mean, over here your fill is right out in the open. I hadn't looked to see where the oil filter is, but I'm sure it's a spin-on from the bottom somewhere. I mean, it's pretty easy to get to, and there's lots of space.
Pretty interesting motor mount down here, eh?
The other one's like that too. It's a huge cradle. It's just massive with big rubber.
There's no
bands.
vibration. The vehicle runs really smooth. It's impressive.
It's a Honda. It should, right? Yeah. And I mean, you know, 15 inches of travel out back is pretty acceptable. Or 15.6 or whatever it is, 15.7. And up front, 14.6 or 15.1 in the back, 14.6 up front. It seems to ride really good. Rims and tires are nice. I mean, it's got
For a
Maxxis.
Honda, that's a mega step up in the right direction for like machined aluminum wheels and proper Maxxis tires.
Yeah.
They're 28s as well.
What's the tire called? A Maxxis Mush? I've never been a fan of Maxxis tires. I'd prefer to see something
That's an
else in there.
MU9H.
Yeah.
Does look like mush though. I'll give it to you.
They wear. I think they wear too fast on the leading edge, but I mean it's a decent quality.
They're better than a Polaris 589.
Oh, dude, yeah, way better than that. And I think at this price range where this thing comes in at, it should have that. Other thing that's nice is it's got like a built-in over fender.
Yep.
You pay for that for most other manufacturers. It doesn't come unless you buy, you know, the Primo version. So that's kind of nice. Like this is a decent fender, and it gives you pretty good coverage. So I think that's decent. And the other quality part about it is the size of the box. I mean, while it doesn't have a rear lip on it, I'm sure they sell a clip-in rear.
Oh, they sell so much junk
trunk
for this.
piece.
Here's another great part about it. Check this out.
Yeah.
So that's your
Airbox.
airbox. It's not the smallest airbox I've ever seen.
And it's kind of funny that they wouldn't have used something like a Donaldson, because everybody has started using Donaldson air filters because they're so flipping simple to use.
Yeah. But at least
look at
if you're not going to use a Donaldson, at least you can open this one without having to take the vehicle apart, right?
Yeah, with
So
like
that's kind of a good
96
thing.
clips.
And if you get the turbo for this vehicle, it all replaces all of this, and the turbo sits like right down in here. So this is actually almost empty when you have a turbo.
And they probably put a Donaldson on with the turbo, I'll bet.
You know what? I didn't even notice, but probably.
So you got your, what is it, your coolant fill here? Or is that your oil fill? No, what am I talking about? It wouldn't be coolant. It's not a high pressure cap. That's an oil fill. Or is that transmission fluid? I don't even know what that is. I'd have to look into it. I don't know. But yeah, it's definitely open. All this stuff goes on nice. Honda fit and finish is never...
Okay, so give me your thoughts on a DCT transmission. What do you think? I mean, we have our preferences, and we have our preferences for all different types of vehicles.
Well, like the dual clutch thing. That's DCT is dual clutch technology, right? So,
Yep.
like my favorite transmission, I think, in the industry is the Sport Shift from Yamaha on the YXE. That thing works awesome.
For what purpose, though?
Sorry, for high speed, for doing what this does, because this, like, let's not call this a utility rig, because it's not, right? I mean, that's what the Pioneers.
It's not even sport utility. It's trail sport.
This is trail sport, but at 64 inches wide, or is it 62? 64. It's
Yeah.
64. Yeah, 64 inches wide or 62 inches wide. There's a lot of trails this won't fit on. This isn't a 50-inch wide Razor or Maverick trail. It's big. So to me, this is a sport utility, or this is a sport side by side.
Yep.
If I'm going to ride a sport side by side, I want to shift it. I don't want it to shift itself, and I don't necessarily like the way that Honda's shifting system works. I don't find it to be intuitive to the way that I drive. It tends to shift when I don't want it, and downshifts when I don't want it.
So I will say this though, after spending some time in this thing with both modes, I completely agree with you on the standard mode, but in sport, I was super blown away at how good this shifts.
So it works better in sport.
It works better, definitely better than a Pioneer, because that's mostly what we've got to compare it to, right? Is DCT and a Pioneer, and they don't work right at all.
No, they downshift too early, and
I manual shift a Pioneer when I drive it.
Yeah.
But this thing, I actually I leave it in sport mode, and it's easier to drive.
without paddle shifting.
Yep.
What were we talking about?
I don't remember.
Can't remember. Phone issue.
Oh, transmission.
Yeah, transmission.
Sport shift.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll have to just shoot out the Yamaha and this one and see what kind of we like better. Maybe we'll do a story strictly just on that. But I think Honda's getting better at it. There's just sometimes with that auto shift feature, it doesn't shift when you want it to. But I guess that depends on who's riding it.
The other thing too is how you drive it. We tend to drive, you and I think we drive very similar, where we're on and off the throttle all the time.
Yeah.
And
It doesn't seem to like that.
it doesn't like that at all. When you drive these things, I noticed the engineers drive them, they never lift their foot. It's always in and out very smoothly, and that allows it to just hold a gear.
But I don't think many people ride that way.
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I watch NASCAR. One thing that
I've ridden in a side-by-side with Dustin Nelson. I know how he drives.
Exactly, yeah. Hey, I was with Matt DiBenedetto. He got a
There you
flip
go.
last week, so yeah. And he lifts, I'll tell you that.
Once in a while.
Anyways, one thing that I just noticed is kind of cool. I've never seen this on a side-by-side, but they put hardline along all of the rear suspension components, and I've never seen a manufacturer use actual hardline, like automotive style steel
For the brakes.
brake lines. It's always rubber lines, and they always kind of route in interesting places where you kind of wonder about that. But Honda, being the like super finesse people that they are, put hardline on, which is kind of cool. That's sort of neat. I mean, as you look at this thing, there's all kinds of little things here and there, little bits and pieces and stuff that kind of surprise you. They do some neat things.
Well, I mean, we got a full test ride coming on this thing here shortly. I'm about to shoot that actually today. So, there's going to be a lot more stuff come out as we're doing that as well.
Yeah.
It's pretty comfy though, isn't it?
It's not bad.
Like you got leg room, you're not cramped. There's not excessive leg room, but you're not cramped.
No. It's all the way back.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for Honda's first sport side-by-side, they've done a really, really good job. I think people will be happy. Is the horsepower there? That's another big question,
Well,
right? That's one thing that I know, it's gear on gear, so it's putting more power to the ground than a CVT for sure. Like, you know, what's lost on a gear-on-gear transmission, maybe 12-15%, where CVT's like 30.
Yeah.
But this vehicle, what's the horsepower on the
105?
105, and Yamaha's at 115 with theirs. So 10 horsepower isn't all that much, but when you're talking 105 horsepower, 115 is almost 10% more.
Yeah.
So that's, I don't know. I mean, I think it's not a bad place for them to start. I hope that they're going to have a turbo model come out, because seeing their 4-seat, because right now they have 4 models. They have the X and the R in the 2-seat, and then they have 2 R models, one with Fox Live valves, which is pretty cool. So that's the same stuff that is on the Razor Dynamics, so the shocks are constantly changing.
Tuned by Bosch.
Yeah, exactly. That's a pretty cool setup.
And then a turbo kit.
Yeah, they have a turbo kit, and it's kind of like Yamaha. Like right now, you can get the turbo kit for the YXZ from the factory, but they install it at the dealership, right? You can order it on your vehicle, but they don't put it on until the dealer.
Well, and the thing is, remember with the Yamaha snowmobiles, though.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
That's how it started, was the kit, and then all of a sudden.
Yeah. And I think that'll be the same for both of these manufacturers. I think. I mean, I don't know what
Well, Yamaha for sure. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got the motor. All they have to do is bolt it in. It's done. Honda, I don't know. I don't know. I know that the guys who work with Honda, like, they're not just engineers. They're guys who ride, and they're super passionate about this vehicle. Yeah. I mean, it's you say it a lot. Engineers, they know everything about a vehicle, but a lot of them are just numbers guys. These guys aren't. They're actual racers, and I mean, they're super good guys, and they know what they're talking about. So I'm sincerely hoping that they have some sway at Honda and can say, guys, we need more horsepower, and Honda will say, okay, well, you know what you're talking about, so go for it.
Well, I don't think that anybody ever thought that this was actually going to come from Honda. I mean, we all heard about it. Until we saw the leaked pictures.
You remember when the Pioneer came out? They were promising this 1000cc side-by-side. We're all like, oh man, it's going to be a sports side-by-side for Honda. Nope, it was the Pioneer.
Yeah. And it wasn't bad. The Pioneer is a good vehicle.
It's got its spot.
I like the Pioneer with the convertible rear seats. I think it's a really smart design, and I would buy one for my family. I like it. This vehicle I really like, and I think it's definitely where it needs to be for the first year, second year. But I think people, to take it to that next level, to take it to that Razor Turbo, Maverick XR or X3 Turbo, to take it to that next level, even the YXZ with the turbo on it, to get it into that category, I think they're going to have to come from the factory with a turbo kit that you can buy, showroom, like comes on the 53-foot tractor trailer with a turbo already installed and done. And I think that'll be the next big step to see whether they go there. I mean, this thing what's it got? 105 horsepower. So you put a turbo on it and you bring it up to 165, let's say. Gear on gear 165. That's like 200 horsepower.
It is.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So now I don't want to downplay the fact that it's a really good vehicle in its current form.
It does feel pretty good for 100 horsepower. It's no slouch. And a lot of vehicles in its category as 64 wides aren't turbo. Yeah. So when you're looking even at a Maverick, right, a non-R Maverick at 64 wide is 120 horsepower. Yeah. A Razor 1000 non-turbo, what are they?
Well, no, a Maverick 1000R Sport, which is what this would compare to.
But that's an R.
Yeah, but the R is not turbo. The R, because they make an 800, 1000, and 1000R. The 1000R, I believe, is 110 horsepower.
Okay.
The 1000 is 100 horsepower, I think, and then the 800 is like 80 something.
I thought the XMR, non-R XMR I was riding last week was 120.
Unless they changed that from the intro that I was at. I mean, everything's changing so quick with
Can-Am. Either way, as a non-turbo, and that's the thing we used to say about the YXE too, was as a non-turbo, these things are actually really powerful when you factor in gear-on-gear transmission. When you put them up against a turbo, which is not what this is meant to do, it doesn't hold its own. But I agree with you that when you've got other vehicles, flagship models like turbos out there, and you're trying to get people into a Honda dealership, you kind of need to have that flagship model too.
Well, and when you consider that the R model, R is the wider one, right? Wider, longer.
Yeah.
When you consider that has the exact same drivetrain as this one, and it's no more horsepower.
Yep.
That's where
and it has 72-inch width and 20-something inches of travel or whatever it is.
That's the one that needs to have more horsepower.
Yeah, it's the one that does compete with those big units, so you got to be careful there. But this one, I think, actually is spec'd fairly reasonable for what it is.
Yeah, and it's a good-looking vehicle too. Honestly, I think it's actually one of the better-looking side-by-sides in the industry right now. I really like the way that it looks. I like the lines. I like the design. I like the seating. I like the interior. The interior is probably one of my favorite interiors right now, if not the favorite. You know, even the front angles and lines and stuff. We didn't open up the front of the thing either, which the little fasteners and stuff too. Like, you know, everybody else has got those half-turn deals, which they have on the back of this one, but this is just like, it's just another step above. It's just a little bit nicer, you know. And I'm just gonna pull it hard. It's really easy to fit stuff in there too. Like,
why wouldn't they put a little container in there? A little storage bin would fit right in there.
But that's nice. That's easy to get to everything. That's easier than a Maverick and easier than a Razor right now for sure.
Here's your coolant.
Yeah, there's a lot of space in here. Like, you can, you know, adjusting shocks too. That's one thing on some of the other manufacturers that drive me crazy, is to get up and get at. Usually it's not a QS3. This makes it even simpler. But the other ones, you know, like
usually you're reaching around the header that's about 3 million degrees.
Yeah, well, and you're up inside the front of the thing, and you got a flat blade screwdriver, and you're trying to count clicks and all that stuff. QS3s are simple, and they're smart, and they're intuitive. It's easy to use. But this in particular, like if you're putting a winch on this buggy, I mean, and I do a lot of the install of that stuff, this would be so simple to put a winch in. Like, I can see the drive shaft. I can touch the drive shaft back here. Like, if it had a greasable joint on it, I could get a grease gun on that, no problem. Like, that's, I don't know, serviceability, super good. I mean, being able to get to the steering components and even the joints on the steering components. It's a Honda, so you're never going to need to do any of those things because they never fail. But look at all this stuff too. Like the brake block.
Yep.
Oh, is that power? No, that's the
brake block. You're right.
Yeah. Like, look at all the hardline. They're running hardline everywhere, which is really cool. A lot of manufacturers don't do that, and all the like junction points here and where everything's going in. Like, it's super tidy.
It's a Civic.
Yeah.
It's a Honda Civic.
Exactly.
With 15 inches of suspension travel.
It's kind of interesting though. They're running the main brake line into this. I think this is a brake booster. It's kind of cool.
You know what's weird?
Made by Nissan.
When it shifts and you're on the brakes, like when it downshifts and you're on the brakes, the brake pedal pulses.
Oh, maybe that's what it is. Maybe there's.
I don't know why it does that. It's weird. It's like as soon as the revs rise, the brake pedal pulses.
There's a motor on the brake lines, which is really interesting because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me why there's a motor on there. I mean, obviously, it's must have some kind of a brake booster on it or something that interacts. Anyways, it's nice and tidy under the hood.
Well, there you go. That's a good overview of this vehicle from both of our perspectives. Usually you're just getting one or the other, but in this case you got both. And yeah, I mean, lots more miles need to be put on it for sure, no question. That's why our job is so fun.
You picked up some flowers on the way.
Oh, those were for you.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I'd say it's a pretty sweet ride for their first foray into the sport market. I think Honda's done a really good job, and it's kind of what Honda does, you know? They come out with stuff that
doesn't do it the same way as everybody else.
Yeah.
But when you see how they did it, you go, oh, that actually made sense.
It's always made like super smart. You know, in the past they've had some vehicles that people kind of went, I'm not sure if that really answers the question. But since the Pioneer, I really feel like they got it. You know, it's like, okay, we got it. We understand. Even the new Rancher and, you know, the new ATVs, it's like they got it. They understand it. They're making what people want. It's not just a bulletproof Honda that'll be here forever. It's a product that people look at and they go, I can see myself in that Honda. Not just because it's going to be around forever, but because it's going to be around forever and it looks cool.
You're not buying it for the lifespan. You're buying it because it's a great vehicle. Yeah. But you're getting the lifespan as a bonus. Yeah.
You get that as well. So.
Yeah. Right on.
I think they're definitely a player. We'll see what happens in the next, I would like to say 12 to 18 months turbo or something with a bit more power. I'm not going to hold my breath on any of that because, you know, even the Pioneer has stayed at 700 cc's. So maybe they won't. But then again, maybe they will.
There you go. All right. Well, Honda Talon 1000X.
I like the logos down there too.
3 letters. They mean it all.
3 letters.
5 letters. I can count. All right. Well, on that note, we're out. Thanks for watching Dirt Tracks TV. If you liked this video, make sure you click the like button and leave us a comment. Subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you turn that bell on so you get notifications whenever we upload new content. Speaking of new content, click on the links on the screen for all of the new stuff that we upload every week. And most importantly, make sure you get out and ride.